Tamriel Lore, Part 1. Aliad Inscriptions, translated by Beradalmo the Signifier. The following inscriptions were painstakingly transcribed and interpreted over many long years. They are preserved here for all time. Of Molag Ananiamus, a Lata Magica, from fire, life, from light, magic. Bara Ager Risu Karam, wear lore as your armor. Agia Helea ne Jorne Ermo Laboria. Wisdom learned by pain is a reliable guide in dark times. Literally, terrible wisdom never betrayed the lore masters. Nu Admeris Mathmeldi Aldmi Orani Garanda Seperia of Relicis I Brecteris I Valaris. Our exiled elven ancestors heard the welcoming gifts of peace in the streams and beech trees and stars. Mathmeldi means literally, from home driven. Sune ye sune be, blessed and blessed be. Vargalas agia, gravia ye goria, latia malaria, av malatu. In the caverns of lore, ugly and obscure, shines the gold of truth. Vabria Francesca, Sabele Sabanu, Amara Dene, Admeris Adonai. The foaming waves, so thunderous, so mighty, heralds the lordly elves. Eulogy for Emperor Varen by Lord Abnathan, Chancellor of the Elder Council. Emperor Varen, how bravely you blazed across our sky, like a sky metal shard shining out to light our way through the darkness. Noble Varen, devout Varen, Varen Aquilarius, son of a Colovian duke, paragon of physical prowess, wily fox of strategic cunning, you sought to restore our empire to the glory days of the Remans. You showed us the way, if only we, your subjects, had been worthy of the challenge you presented us. When Leovic sat upon the ruby throne, you urged your fellow Colovians to be loyal to their emperor, despite his eccentricities. It was only when Leovic, misled by wicked counselors, declared worship of the Daedric princes legal and protected it in the empire that you cried enough, and you took up your righteous sword. And the Colovians rose behind you. After an initial defeat at the hands of the Emperor's troops at Fort Ash, you took command of the Legion of Coral and sent Leovic reeling back into the heartland. Word spread that Cyrodiil had a savior, and that Reman's true heir had come at last. The Clovian estates rose as one under your dragon banner, and eastward you marched. The war that followed was bitter and terrible, replete with stunning victories, desperate gambits, and reversals on both sides. The might of the Imperial legions, bolstered by the Reachman auxiliaries and Daedric magic, were almost impossible to overcome, but you, Varen, had might of right on your side. Finally, you fought your way to the Imperial Palace and cut down Leovic in the Imperial throne room. But, alas, our Emperor Varen, you wore the Amulet of Kings for all too short a time. It is said that your ambition for restoring your people to greatness led you to plumb the secrets of the Divines best left untouched. Why did you leave us, O Varen, on that night of storms and trembling terrain, and where did you go? Surely you are dead, for you would not leave your people so bereft if you yet lived. We remember you, Emperor Varen, and somehow strive to go on, trying to live up to your shining example, but we know we shall never see your like again. Frontier, Conquest, and Accommodation, A Social History of Cyrodiil, by University of Gwilliam Press, 2E344. Historians often portray the human settlement of Tamriel as a straightforward process, military expansion of the Nords of Skyrim. In fact, human settlers occupied nearly every corner of Tamriel before Skyrim was even founded. These so-called Nedic peoples included the Proto-Cyrodiilians, the ancestors of the Bretons, the Aboriginals of Hammerfell, and perhaps a now-vanished human population of Morrowind. Strictly speaking, the Nords are simply another of these Nedic peoples, the only one that failed to find a method of peaceful accommodation with the Elves who already occupied Tamriel. Ysgramor was certainly not the first human settler in Tamriel. In fact, by fleeing civil war in Atmora, as the Song of Return states, Ysgramor was following a long tradition of migration from Atmora. Tamriel had served as a safety valve for Atmora for centuries before Ysgramor's arrival. Malcontents, dissidents, rebels, landless younger sons all made the difficult crossing for Atmora to the new world of Tamriel. New archaeological excavations date the earliest human settlements in Hammerfell, High Rock, and Cyrodiil at Mythic Era 800 to 1000, centuries earlier than Ysgramor, even assuming that the 12 Nord kings prior to Harald were actual historical figures. The Nedic peoples were a minority in a land of elves and had no choice but to live peacefully with the elder race. In High Rock, Hammerfell, Cyrodiil, and possibly Morrowind, they did just that, and the Nedic peoples flourished and expanded over the last centuries of the Mythic Era. Only in Skyrim did this accommodation break down, an event recorded in the Song of Return. Perhaps, being close to reinforcements from Atmora, the Proto-Nords did not feel it necessary to submit to the authority of the Skyrim elves. Indeed, the early Nord chronicles note that under King Harald, the first historical Nord ruler, First Era 113 to 221, the Atmoran mercenaries returned to their homeland, following the consolidation of the Skyrim as a central kingdom. Whatever the case, the pattern was set. In Skyrim, expansion would precede military with human settlement, following the frontier of conquest, and the line between human territory and elven territory was relatively clear. But beyond this zone of conflict, the other Nedic peoples continued to merge with their elven neighbors. When the Nord armies of the First Empire finally entered High Rock and Cyrodiil, they found Bretons and Proto-Cyrodiils living there already amongst the elves. Indeed, the Nords found it difficult to distinguish between Elf and Breton. The two races had already intermingled to such a degree. Although the Nords' expansion into High Rock and Cyrodiil was relatively brief, less than 2 centuries, the result was decisive. From then on, power in those regions shifted from the elves to the humans. Return to Orsinium by Immigration Wife Ultigag Ra Orsinium. Orcs of the mountains of northern Tamriel, you have a capital in Orsinium, and it's calling you home. Yes, once more the city of orcs, on the escarpment between Upper and Lower Hrothgar, stands tall and proud. Behind its legendary iron-capped walls, tuskers of every clan work to restore our capital, your capital, to its former glory. Once again, buyers and sellers throng in Haggler's Bluff, warriors spar at Fighter's Anvil, and smoke pulses from the chimneys of the Ever-Ember Forges. Malakath worshippers crowd the Temple of Grievance, fungus farmers tend the Ojura spreaders in the caves of the Dark Abundance, and gondolas ply the jugular. We are rebuilding the obdurate gates, and once more smelter, hammer, timber protect the city from the blows of a hostile world. From his throne in Scarp Keek, King Kurog extends to you the hand of welcome and the first of challenge. Are you orc enough to join your brothers and sisters in a renewed Orsinium and stand proud against the world? Come to Orsinium and join us as we raise a flagon of bog iron ale to King Kurog and the resurgent orcs of Tamriel. I hope you've been enjoying these lore readings, and if you have, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.